All right, today we are diving into the wonderfully weird world of Zhuangzi. He's this ancient Chinese philosopher, right? And his stories? They're strange, almost nonsensical, but somehow they feel incredibly relevant today. We're going to see how these absolutely bizarre fables can basically unlock a whole new way of thinking for you.
And yeah, that's really the big question here, isn't it? It feels like a total paradox. I mean, how can these wild stories, we're talking about deformed men, talking shadows, emperors literally named chaos, how can they actually be powerful tools for your mind? Well, here's the secret. The confusion? That's the whole point.
So, to help us navigate all this, we're going to be leaning on this fantastic book by Oscar Brennefeyer. It's called Philosophizing with Zhuangzi. And what's so great about it is that he doesn't just hand you the answers. Nope. Instead, he uses these tales to show us how to ask better questions, how to really think for ourselves.
And this quote, it just nails what we're doing here today. This is not about memorizing a bunch of philosophical facts. Not at all. It's about learning a new process. It's a way you can use these stories to challenge your own assumptions, realizing that the journey of questioning is way more valuable than landing on one single correct answer.
All right, you ready? Let's dive right into our first mystery. And this one, it's all about a very, very unusual guy named Zili Shu.
So try to picture this guy. He's so deformed that his chin is literally tucked into his navel, and his shoulders are way up above his head. I mean, it's a wild image. But here's the twist. He's incredibly successful. He's making enough money to feed 10 people, he manages to avoid getting drafted, and he gets government aid. And the story wraps up with this real kicker. It suggests that if his body is that effective, imagine how great a deformed virtue must be.
So, what is going on here? I mean, this is the real puzzle, right? In our world, a world that's all about strength and fitting in, why is this guy being held up as the ideal? What Zhuangzi is doing here is brilliant. He's forcing us to question everything we think we know about success, about strength, and what it even means to be good.
Okay, so to unlock this whole thing, we need to understand one key Chinese character, Da. Now, Da has this amazing double meaning, and Zhuangzi is just masterfully playing with it. On one hand, it can mean virtue, in the moral sense, but it can also mean power or an inherent quality, kind of like the potency of a medicine.
And this simple word is at the center of a huge philosophical clash that was going on at the time. See, on one side, you've got the Confucians. For them, Day was all about moral virtue, stuff you could see, stuff that took effort. It was about your duty to society. But then you have the Taoists, like Zhuangzi, and they saw Day completely differently. To them, it was an invisible, effortless inner power that you get from just aligning with the natural flow of things, the Tao.
So you see, this completely reframes the whole story. Zili Shu's deformed virtue has nothing to do with being a good little citizen in the conventional way. No, it's about a totally different kind of power. His real strength comes from being useless to the state, from rejecting ambition, and from turning what everyone else sees as a weakness into his greatest tool for survival. It's genius, really.
Okay, let's keep going with this theme, because our next mystery gets even weirder. This one is a strange little conversation between a shadow and its own fuzzy edge, which is called a penumbra.
So the penumbra, that fuzzy edge, it gets all annoyed with the main shadow. It's like, hey, 1 minute you're moving, the next you stop. Why can't you make up your mind? Don't you have any integrity? And the shadow's reply, it's just so deep. It basically says, look, do I even control myself? I depend on the body, and the body depends on something else, and that depends on something else again. How could I possibly know why I do any of this?
Wow, I mean, that little exchange, it's a direct shot at one of our most fundamental beliefs, the idea that we have this solid, independent self that's in the driver's seat making all the choices. Zhuangzi is asking a really uncomfortable question here. What if you're not actually in control? What if you are just the shadow?
What the shadow is describing here is this core Taoist idea of an infinite chain of cause and effect. Think about it. The penumbra depends on the shadow depends on the body depends on what? The ground it stands on, the air it breathes, the laws of the universe. It just keeps going, with no single first cause at the beginning. There's no puppet master pulling the strings. And the implication is kind of staggering. Maybe our whole sense of free will is just a story we tell ourselves.
Okay, for our final story, we're going to look at a powerful and honestly a pretty dark cautionary tale. It's all about what can happen when good intentions and our very human need for order go horribly, horribly wrong.
So the story goes like this. You have the emperors of the North and South Seas, and they go to visit the emperor of the center. And his name is Chaos. Now, Chaos is a fantastic host, treats them incredibly well. So, to repay his kindness, they decide to give him a gift. They're going to fix him by drilling the 7 holes that humans have, for seeing, hearing, eating. They drill 1 hole a day, and on the 7th day, Chaos is dead.
Now, the names of these characters are a massive clue. The 2 visiting emperors, Shu and Hu, their names mean things like sudden and abrupt. They represent action, speed, making distinctions. But the emperor of the center, his name is Chaos or Hundun, which means something like undifferentiated or the primordial whole. He's all about just being, stillness, and unity.
So what we're really watching here is a kind of methodical destruction. Shu and Hu, they have the best intentions, right? But they impose their human-centric, organized world onto the natural whole state of chaos. By forcing chaos to see and hear and eat, by trying to make it like them, they completely destroy its very essence. It's just such a powerful metaphor for how our urge to control, to define, and to improve everything can actually be fatal.
Okay, so let's recap. We've got a deformed man who's a hero. We've got a shadow that says it has no free will. And we've got an act of kindness that is literally a murder. What on earth are we supposed to do with all of this?
Well, here's the big reveal. The resolution is that there is no single resolution. And that's the point. Like Oscar Brennefire shows us, Zhuangzi's whole method is a lot like the Socratic method. These stories are meant to be philosophical provocations. They're built to attack our deepest assumptions and to make us value the process of thinking more than finding a single right answer. It's all about using paradox to jolt you into thinking for yourself and ultimately freeing your mind from all those rigid boxes we put things in.
And that really is the ultimate takeaway here. These stories aren't riddles you're supposed to crack. Think of them more like a philosophical workout for your brain. The goal was never to figure out what Zhuangzi really meant. The goal was simply to get you to think, to question. And by doing that, you make your mind more flexible, more adaptable, and in the end, a whole lot more free.
So, true to the spirit of all this, we're not going to end with a nice, neat little bow. Instead, I'm going to leave you with one last question from Brennefire's book, one that comes right out of that first story about Zili Shu. It's a tough one with no easy answer, and that's exactly the point. So here it is. Should a person survive at all costs? Your thinking starts now.